NASA has recently declared that the time has come to focus more on Venus following new discoveries regarding the possibility of life on the planet. If you review NASA's historical records from the 1960s, you will find that the agency once referred to Venus as a planet from hell. In comparison, Mars had gained more attention as a promising target for exploration. Such harsh descriptions of distant planets were not uncommon during the intense space race period of time when the Soviet Union was also heavily involved in sending expensive missions to Venus, a planet that appeared almost devoid of any potential for supporting life. Despite this, the Soviet space program did not abandon its Venera missions until the dissolution of the Soviet Empire. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has played a key role in helping us understand why the Soviets were so captivated by Venus. Join us as we explore the declassified images of Venus captured by the Soviet Union. The collapse of the Soviet Union was momentous for numerous reasons. Not only did it alter the global political landscape, but it also concealed many secrets. The Soviet Union was famous for its secrecy, from operating one of the most sophisticated intelligence agencies in the world to keeping quiet about potential extraterrestrial encounters. Consequently, the former superpower kept numerous secrets hidden. Before the United States took the lead in planetary exploration, the Soviet Union was at the forefront of the space race. While the US and USSR space programs had both successes and failures, their primary focus remained Venus, the mysterious and hostile planet. In Russian, Venus is called Venera, which also became the name of the Soviet mission that lasted from 1961 to 1983. This occurred during the same period that the United States was focused on reaching the moon. The Soviets strategically decided to focus their resources on Venus during the space race. It is not entirely surprising that the Soviet Union invested so much in Venus. Were they considering the planet as a potential site for a military base? Or were they possibly exploring the idea of colonization after investigating the planet for any signs of life? The exact reasons behind their intense focus on Venus remain unclear, as the Soviet Union was deeply engaged in the Cold War and many of their objectives were kept secret. In fact, much of what we know about their Venus missions comes from declassified or unarchived documents. Even then, pinpointing the true motivations behind their relentless efforts is difficult. The Soviets didn't just land on Venus once, twice, or 3 times. In total, they launched 28 rockets targeting the planet, with 13 successfully entering Venus's atmosphere. Of these, 8 missions managed to land successfully. These ambitious and complex missions positioned the Soviet Union as a leader in space exploration. While the United States was a close competitor, its focus was more on satellite technology and innovative infrastructure, whereas the Soviets were more committed to investigating the potential for life on distant planets. Their obsession with Venus stemmed from their pursuit of scientific knowledge and technological supremacy. Most history books may not highlight this, but the Soviet space program was the first to send a probe into the atmosphere of a planet beyond Earth. It was also the first country to achieve a soft landing on another planet, and the first to send back images and sound recordings from another planet's surface. While these groundbreaking achievements are often overshadowed by later American accomplishments, they were pivotal milestones in space exploration. In 1992, the Soviet Space Agency was officially dissolved following the USSR's collapse and was later re-established under the new Russian name Roscosmos. Unfortunately, many historical records were lost or destroyed during this transition, which is why several aspects of the Soviet space program remain shrouded in mystery. Although we may never fully understand why the Soviets launched so many spacecraft into Venus's atmosphere, it is likely their decision was influenced by cost-effectiveness rather than pure scientific curiosity. While the Soviet Union was undoubtedly interested in exploring Venus, they were also searching for the presence of water, solar radiation, and other environmental conditions. Without these missions, it would have been difficult for scientists to gain insights into Venus's extreme temperatures and thick atmosphere. Today, many cosmologists still argue that Venus is too hostile to support life. With temperatures hot enough to melt lead and an atmosphere dense with carbon dioxide, it's easy to dismiss the possibility of life on Venus. However, to overlook the pioneering efforts of the Soviet space program is to disregard an important chapter in history. For the Soviets, Venus was worth exploring, even if only as part of their broader goal to fuel the space race. Investigating planets like Mars was not entirely out of the question, but it was a much more costly endeavor than launching missions to Venus. The vast distance between Earth and other celestial bodies played a key role in determining where to focus resources. Venus on average is only 40 million kilometers away from Earth, whereas Mars is about 250 million kilometers away. This vast difference in distance is a major factor behind the high costs of Mars exploration. Additionally, the United States' global economic dominance made investigating Mars more feasible for them than for the Soviet Union. Some reports suggest that Soviet missions to Venus were unreliable and faced significant technical difficulties. Many of their spacecraft were not built to cover such vast interplanetary distances, and there were several instances where communication was lost with the rockets. Given these obstacles, it makes sense that the Soviet space program would choose to focus on a nearer planet that offered a better chance of success. However, focusing only on the technical setbacks ignores the larger story of the Venera missions. When the Soviets began launching missions to Venus, the United States was still largely focused on reaching the Moon. NASA's Venus missions in the 1960s were plagued by failures, which led to the phenomenon known as the Venus curse. Every time NASA launched a probe toward Venus, it ended in failure. This was when the Soviet Union saw an opportunity to capitalize on America's struggles and gain a significant victory in the space race. The Soviets accelerated their efforts to explore Venus, viewing the planet as a key milestone in the race to space. Despite their limited resources, the Soviets pressed on, launching a series of successful missions to Venus while the United States focused on the Moon. The hellish planet label was attached to Venus in popular media, often used by the United States to downplay the Soviet accomplishments. This negative portrayal of Venus did not deter the Soviet space program, however. Their goal was to demonstrate their superiority over the United States. Although the Soviet Union's Venus missions are not as widely acknowledged today, they were highly ambitious and advanced for their time. The Venera missions marked the beginning of the space age. Starting in the 1950s, the Soviets developed the technology needed to send spacecraft to Venus. Over the next 30 years, they built and launched a series of interplanetary probes as part of the Venera program. The future of Venus exploration. As humanity continues to expand its reach beyond Earth, Venus has once again become a major target for scientific investigation. The lessons learned from past missions, particularly the Soviet Venera program, have paved the way for a new era of exploration. Several space agencies, including NASA Roscosmos ESA, European Space Agency, and ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, have announced ambitious missions aimed at uncovering Venus's secrets. NASA's Da Vinci and Veritas missions. The Da Vinci, Deep Atmosphere Venus Investigation of Noble Gases Chemistry and Imaging, mission set to launch in the 2030s will study Venus's atmosphere in unprecedented detail, focusing on its composition and climate history. The Veritas, Venus Emissivity Radio Science in SAR Topography and Spectroscopy, mission aims to map Venus's surface with high-resolution radar, revealing its geological history and determining whether it has active volcanoes. ESA's Envision mission. Envision, scheduled for the early 2030s, will provide detailed studies of Venus's surface and atmosphere, investigating its geological activity and potential for past habitability. Russia plans to revive its Venus exploration efforts with the Venera D mission, which will include an orbiter and lander to analyze Venus's surface and climate. This mission may be a collaboration with NASA, continuing the legacy of the Soviet Venera program. India is also joining the race to Venus with Chakrayan-1, an orbiter mission that will study Venus's atmosphere and surface, contributing valuable data to global research efforts. Why Venus exploration matters. Despite its extreme environment, Venus holds crucial clues to planetary evolution. Scientists believe that Venus was once Earth-like with liquid water oceans before undergoing a runaway greenhouse effect that led to its current hostile conditions. Studying Venus can help us. The Soviet Union's Venera missions laid the foundation for all future Venus exploration. As new technologies emerge, space agencies are better equipped to explore Venus's surface and atmosphere with greater precision. The upcoming missions of the 2020s and 2030s promise to unlock new discoveries, potentially rewriting our understanding of Venus and its place in the solar system.